Oh, welcome back, How you guys doing? Happy Tuesday, Formula One Tuesday. What the F happened to to Buddy? What happened to Buddy? Worst one I've ever. Yeah, I do remember because we did. I remember him through the 7 worst driver videos. If you guys do want to check out my Formula 1 videos, it's on my channel under the F1 playlist. If you get bored, if you get tired, or if you want to just watch it, rewatch one, go ahead. But anyway, is he as bad as Lord Maheaver? You know what I mean? Mazepin. Hey. We are finna find out. Very, very looking forward to this. What happened? Because I think we did react to it in the video, but I don't know if we really got too much in depth about it. But anyway, hope you guys do enjoy it. Don't forget to like the video and sub as well. Let's get started.
The 2006 Formula 1 season was notable for a number of reasons. The sport had gone from running the deafening, albeit awesome sounding V10 engines with that of the slightly more anemic V8s. Michael Schumacher would retire from the sport at the end of the year, only to come back 4 years later, and a new team debuted in the form of Super Aguri. And I missed that team, badly. But the first year for that team was tumultuous, to say the least, and it was largely down to a driver who will be remembered for all the wrong reasons. So Yuji Ide started out in karting in his native Japan, where in the region of Kanto, he won the National Cup Kart Championship in 1991, placed second in the Regional Kart Championship.
Just like we have seen, I know I've said this a lot, but like we've seen with other drivers, they start off good, they're excelling, dominating their youth motorsports, stuff like that, but it doesn't always lead it. We've seen Lance Stroll, Lando Norris, Winkelhawk, but
the A1 class.
Sometimes it works out for drivers, sometimes it doesn't.
So off the bat, we got a relatively successful car campaign. After competing in the All Japan Karting Championship in 1993, Ide made the transition into racing cars. Now his early years of car racing is a little bit patchy, so he had a 6-race campaign in the All Japan Formula 3 Championship in 1994, followed by a 2-race campaign in 1997, and then a 7-race campaign in 1998, and then the following year, he had no campaign at all. I'm not sure why this was, but it's not exactly the best indicator if your attendance figures rival that of Joe Pesci's. So, in 2000 would see Ide commit to a full stint in the Formula 3 season. He would win a couple of races and get a few podiums, and would ultimately finish second in the Drivers' Championship, beating out some very accomplished drivers in that field. The following year he would finish 5th in the final season standings for the Japanese Formula 3 Championship, and would compete in the Macau Grand Prix where he would finish 5th. Okay, time out. If he can finish 5th at Macau, you've got to be pretty good, right? On paper,
he's a Macau?
In that field. The following year he would finish 5th in the final season standings for the Japanese Formula 3 Championship, and would compete in the Macau Grand Prix where he would finish 5th.
What kind of track is that?
Okay, time out. If he can finish 5th at Macau, you've got to be pretty good, right? On paper, yeah. But when your teammate qualifies 3rd and you're languishing in 12th, that does not look too good now, doesn't it? I should also mention at this point that in that season's Japanese Formula 3 Championship, Ide achieved only 1 measly podium and finished 5th in the standings.
First thing first, this dude's sorry as shit. I mean, just look at him. I mean, like, you're in Formula 3. You're not, I think that was a Xbox alert, but my man.
Behind Sakon Yamamoto. The next season comprised of a full season campaign in the French Formula 3 Championship, as well as partaking in the European Formula 3 Cup, Macau Grand Prix, Korea Super Prix, and the Masters of Formula 3. His French F3 campaign was relatively unsuccessful, save for 1 win in the 4th round of the championship, but that paled in comparison to that of his teammate, who racked up multiple wins and podiums, and finished 2nd outright in the championship. The other miscellaneous events he competed in didn't provide any more success.
He was one of the
that not very successful season, Ide did the next logical thing and progressed into the Formula Nippon series, which for those of you unaware is basically the Formula 2 Championship of Japan and one of the premier open wheel championships outside of Formula 1. So Ide made his debut in the Formula Nippon series in 2003 and had a pretty good run in the championship. Several podiums, 7th in the championship and ahead of his teammate Tsukio Matsuda. Not a bad outing considering it was his debut season. The following year he would finish 3rd, beating his teammate and super close to winning the whole championship, with the top 4 separated by 3 points. The next season he would better himself with 2nd in the championship, albeit losing out to Satoshi Motoyama, who really in hindsight should have been Japan's next Formula 1 driver. Outside of open wheelers, he also raced pretty successfully in what would become the Super GT Championship, achieving pretty modest success with the Team Impulse Skyline team. So by now it looked like Ide was on the up. He was establishing himself on the Formula Nippon scene as an up-and-coming talent, or at least it seemed that way. Yeah. Elsewhere, Aguri Suzuki
that's what it seemed like, because he went to the Nippon, I'm stupid as hell, but the Nippon series back in Japan. But it seems like he does have a lot of success back in Japan. We've seen with like his youth days, obviously the Nippon series. I don't know how I'm mispronouncing his name, even though I just listened to it if I am. But maybe it's just the transition. It's different, possibly.
Looking to start up his own Formula 1 team. Aguri had a vision of fielding an all-Japanese Formula 1 team.
That's pretty cool, though.
His vision would be realised in January 2006 when the Super Aguri Formula 1 entry would be accepted. The 2 drivers announced were Takuma Sato, a no-brainer at the time, and Yuji Ide. Now, a big factor in Ide's appointment was the fact that Ide and Aguri had known each other for quite a while, having backed his Formula 3 campaign throughout the entirety of 2002. So I suppose he saw something in him, or maybe Yuji was a smooth talker. Whatever the case, here's a tip, kiddos. It ain't what you know, it's who you know. Now, let me preface this by saying that Ide was showing himself to be a decent wheelman in Formula Nippon. In hindsight, there were perhaps better candidates, such as Satoshi Motoyama, Sekon Yamamoto, Takomi Fujiwara. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit.
Is that some anime?
14 years and the scars have not yet fully healed. But the rest is history, and Bahrain saw the F1 debut of Ide, or at least they saw someone trying to make a debut. Teammate Takuma Sato was 5 seconds down on Fernando Alonso in Q1, whilst Ide was nearly 3 seconds slower than Sato, thereby making him nearly 8 seconds slower than Alonso. Alas, this effort wasn't really helped when Ide inadvertently punched the side of his car in free practice, but his efforts weren't that much better in the race either, where his Honda engine lost the will to live on lap 35. He was a tad closer in Malaysia, but still way off the pace and would retire due to throttle issues. Then came Melbourne, where Ide was way slower than the pack. Like, a lot slower. Let's put this into context. Even with how dreadfully slow the Williams was in 2019, the gap between George Russell and Charles Leclerc in Q1 was 2.3 seconds. The gap between Sato, who was second to last, and Ide was 3.8 seconds.
Okay, what's with Ide constantly holding his team back? My man. It's... I think it was a Formula 2 or Formula 3 he was holding his team back. Now here you are, you're somehow in Formula 1 because the guy who's in charge of the team knows you. Listen, I don't know what he saw, I don't know what he was thinking. Personally, I would have got rid of you after these couple of races. How are you constantly 3 or 4 seconds behind your teammate? Constantly, it seemed like. You were 9 seconds behind Walpole and Montoya. The last race, he was about the same. Bahrain, my man, come on now.
And the gap between Ide and Montoya was over 9 seconds. He spent most of his time in Australia looping it around where he could and getting in the way of anything that moved. No worries, time to put all of that behind us and head to Italy, or for appearances like San Marino, for the first race of the European season. Ide did bridge the gap a little bit in qualifying, but thoughts of him matching or even beating Sato at this point were non-existent. Aguri Suzuki himself even stated that Ide could be out of his seat if he didn't get a move on. Most onlookers were starting to hedge bets on who was going to replace him. Frank Montagny can sniff an opportunity. Which wasn't the only thing he was sniffing back in the day. So anyway, the race was still on for Ide, and was time for him to prove that he was no pushover. But in his quest,
don't cheat.
He actually pushed over someone else. Heading into the Variante Villeneuve, Ide tried to dive down the inside of Christian Alba's in the Midlands, but the move was never on. After clashing wheels, Alba's car was thrown up in the air, rolled several times over before coming to rest in the sandbox as Ide continued on, only to retire with suspension failure later on. Now, this incident really didn't help Ide's Formula 1 career. In fact, it annihilated it. By this stage, both Aguri Suzuki and the FIA had had enough, and his super license was revoked, thereby abruptly ending his Formula 1 career.
Okay, it's not funny to see somebody lose their job, obviously, but the FIA had to get involved and be like, my guy, get the fuck out. Bye, get out.
He himself said he didn't have enough testing because he didn't understand how to use the car. Which is pretty alarming to say about one of your drivers now, isn't it? And even though this incident would still be etched into the
That's a scary incident, though. That's a pretty scary incident.
Committed to getting Ide back onto the Formula 1 grid. That was until Super Aguri folded in mid-2008. Another factor working against Ide was his difficulty in getting stuff across to the team, due to the fact that he really couldn't speak any English. I mean, granted, English sucks, but it all worked against him in the end. So Ide would return to Japan and compete regularly in the Super GT and the Formula Nippon series, but he never really rekindled the competitiveness he had in those years before Formula 1. Perhaps it was a confidence knock, or maybe his early results were a fluke, if you want to believe in that theory. And even though he was back in familiar territory, he was still being reprimanded for dangerous driving. In the 2006 Suzuka 1000k race, he was penalised after colliding with other drivers in some pretty absent-minded driving. But despite this, Ide did not answer that black flag, and the car was subsequently disqualified from the race. Ide himself was handed a 300,000 yen fine and banned for the remainder of the 2006 season. But what was perhaps the most damaging thing out of all of this was that Ide was drafted in as the third driver for that particular race, and was most probably going to be his only appearance anyway. But he was partnering the regular drivers Tsukio Matsuda and Satoshi Motoyama, and the points they lost through being disqualified from the round may have, in effect, potentially lost them the Super GT title in 2006. So yeah, that would have gone down well like a nice cup of sick. The remainder of Ide's...
Damn, so he basically cost his team extra points. I don't care. This dude's probably the worst. I mean, he probably took Lord Mahiva's spot. This dude's gotta be the worst.
His career would be relatively unspectacular, except for one incident. Following that, he mainly competed in Super GT in the GT300 class, and was last racing with Bentley in 2018. And that is the abridged story of Yuji Ide, the best I could tell it. So reflecting upon Ide's racing career, it's somewhat checkered. There are moments, especially in Formula Nippon, where he demonstrated he had the ability behind the wheel.
Yeah, exactly.
I suppose he did, but his stint in Formula 1 will always mire the results that came beforehand. Who knows if Ide had more time with the car, or the ability to communicate well with his team. Maybe he would have lasted longer in the game. Or maybe not, and I just don't know what I'm talking about. So everyone, who do you think is the worst Formula 1 driver of all time? Is it Ide? Is it Inoue? Is it Stroll? Whatever you think, comment below, keep it respectful, be wholesome, don't be...
Is Lance Stroll that bad? I mean, is Stroll really that bad? I don't ever hear nobody really talk about Stroll. But y'all let me know. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video and sub as well. I'll see you guys later.